It's a weird set of panels. We've never done this before. It feels a little bit weird to be talking to ourselves when there's so many people listening.
I don't know who's listening, so.
But I will tell you this. I made a promise to the other panelists. Backstage, we were having a rivalry that she will eat our dust. So let's make sure that she will eat our dust.
Very competitive.
Are we measuring somehow the
We'll probably have some
so should we sing? Should we do something to get the people involved? Or
we'll definitely have some metrics at the end of this panel.
There needs to be some of the television there.
So let's get started by by hearing from you a few things about your company. I think it's important to set the right context. So, Apostole, tell us a little bit about Pnoe.
Sure. So I'm Apostolos Atsalakis. I'm the co-founder and CRO of Pnoe. So essentially, Pnoe is a health tech company. We're selling to businesses in the health and wellness space. And essentially, everything starts with a 10-minute breath analysis test. We gather 23 biomarkers of human physiology. One of them, for example, is VO2 max, which is the strongest predictor for human longevity. And based on these biomarkers, we provide a personalized longevity, nutrition, and training recommendation to our users. We're selling to businesses in the wellness and health space, so primary care clinics, wellness centers, anti-aging clinics, obesity clinics, hotels. I mean, everybody who is related to the wellness is
so both medical and non-medical.
Both medical and non-medical, yes. And at the moment, there are 70 of us at the company. We've completed 3 funding rounds. Part of our team is based in the US, part of our team is based in Greece.
Amazing.
So that's all for now from me.
I know, because you're also an endeavor entrepreneur, so we know each other very well, that you have production in Greece, right?
Yes.
Which is important to know.
Yes.
It's a hardware and you produce it, you're producing it in Greece.
Yes, absolutely. So both the hardware component of our service and the software component of our service are being produced and engineered in Greece, and our service is being sold primarily in the United States. This is our primary market.
Where in Greece?
So we've recently relocated to 𝐾𝐵. It's our new office.
In Attica.
Yeah, in Attica.
Cool.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
You.
Welcome. Haris.
So my name is Haris Arvanitis. I'm the CEO and co-founder of SportWheel. SportWheel is an effort to bring transparency into the used cars market around Europe, and at the same time change the way that people can get hold of these cars. So what we do is we control the full value chain from finding the right cars, inspecting them, reconditioning them if necessary, and then ensuring that they are fully warranted for the client to get them. And we want to do that at scale. So we are something similar to, let's say, the Amazon for used cars, in the sense that we are trying to bring as many cars as possible under the same quality standards, so that our clients can have a huge variety of cars to pick and choose. Our focus is Central Eastern Europe, because that's where we believe there is a lot of potential and a big problem to be solved in terms of transparency and quality. So right now we are present in Greece, Poland, and Romania as of last year, and we have a plan to be in 9 countries in the next years. And I would say we are a 7-year-old company. We did some funding rounds already, and we're only at 10% of where we want to be. I guess for us, it's super important, the physical part and the physical aspect. So we have a lot of operations, logistics, reconditioning centers of our own across countries, a lot of people. At the same time, there is a lot of technology need on what we do, and that's what was going to drive efficiency and the effectiveness for our clients. So we do invest a lot in technology, and there are more and more things to be done on that front. We are a B2C primarily as of this year, also a B2B company. Used to do trading of used cars, so trying to address people who want to buy a car. So we're doing that, buying through cash, buying through financing. Now we're also leasing car in flexible manner or in a fixed manner. So overall, this whole effort is changing towards becoming a service that could be addressed in various ways. The used car is always at the forefront. And then it depends on what you want to do on the financing side, on the leasing side, how you're going to deliver the car. It's about the experience of the client. And the more we invest on that, the more the gap widens versus our competition. And the more of customer sentiment we get towards us in this. So yeah, that's who we are.
Amazing. Just add a few data here. There are not a lot of scale-ups in Greece. 𝐻𝐻 is definitely one of the scale-ups in Greece. It's very important to have technology companies that manage to scale, that manage to have international aspirations. It's also very important to have technology companies that become category leaders in the regions or in the world even, right? And 𝐻𝐻 is definitely the category leader in the region, right? So you're accomplishing amazing things. I happen to know that you're also an endeavor entrepreneur. We know the story very well. And it's important to have companies, technology companies that scale and have these aspirations as 𝐻𝐻 and Harris has.
And we were in the first class also of the 𝐼𝐸 effort as well. So
Really?
2015, if I'm not mistaken, or 16, we were also in that first class.
That's amazing.
As early entrepreneurs trying to get hold of what's going on around us.
It's definitely very rewarding to see, the first generation. Maybe we're on the second generation, the second wave of founders, but it's definitely very rewarding to see, a vast majority of the second generation founders accomplishing things, and a lot of programs can say, we knew them, we were involved with them, we were part of the story, right? As Endeavor, as 𝐼𝐸, and other very interesting.
Them while they were poor, now they're rich.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Nico.
So thank you, Panagio. Thank you for the invitation. Very excited to be here. I have a strong connection with MIT because I'm a Sloaney. For the people in the crowd who are familiar with that, means it's the MBA of MIT.
Backstage is half of Sloaney, so...
Yeah, so we exchange some ideas about what's the best hangout places these days in Boston, so, So I'm Nikos Moschos. I'm a co-founder and business director of PD Neurotechnology Limited. It's a medical devices company, and our first product is called PD Monitor. So PD Monitor is about Parkinson's disease, and as I said, an ecosystem comprising of wearables and artificial intelligence and software and hardware and data management, and it's actually there are a lot of technologies that are involved, so it's a very reasonable title for this workshop to have PD Monitor there. And we believe we're revolutionizing the way the management of Parkinson's patients is done, because we offer a continuous objective monitoring at home of the symptoms of the disease and also of the drug intake and also of the food intake and other parameters. And that's very much needed because today the paradigm is you have scarce interactions with the physicians, and the only way they know how well you're doing is through the monitoring of the symptoms, and that is done very subjectively. So there's a clear unmet need established in the last 10 years through numerous publications. If only we knew how the patients are doing in their home environment, in their daily setting, and not just when they are in front of a white blouse and they're putting on the best efforts and we're kind of misguided as to how they're really doing. So we have about 10,000 days of monitoring in the last 29 months. So it's happening. It's a true story. We're in sales. We're out there. We have about 1,000 patients in the same duration out of almost 15 countries where this is happening, starting from Europe and also close to the Middle East, very soon in the US. That is our plan. And we're very excited. We're building, we have a strong pipeline of new innovations that are in place for PD Monitor and for Parkinson's disease. And in our trajectory, we have multiple sclerosis, we have stroke rehab, and other conditions.
Amazing.
We've finished, how many now? It's 3 rounds, 2 seed rounds, and the first half of our Series A round. And we're excited and, moving on to the next steps in the company.
It's incredible. You're manufacturing in Greece?
Yes, we are.
The products, amazing.
Made in Greece.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Nico.
Thank you, Panagiotis.
𝐻𝐻, welcome.
Thank you so much for the invitation from I am Evangelos Papas. I'm a professor at the University of West Attica, medical physics, and the founder of 𝐼𝐸. So 𝐼𝐸 is a medical technology company that has developed, patented, FDA solution that truly enhances the safety and efficiency of radiosurgery treatments in people with brain tumors and recently also with Parkinson's. We actually have introduced personalization in the field of radiation oncology. What we do in a few words is that for each and every separate patient, we can use CT scans of that patient and we can build a perfect replica of the patient head in terms of skin, bone structures, and brain tissue. And this avatar interacts with radiation like the living patient. So we are mailing these avatars to the clinics globally from UCLA to Australia. And the medical teams, before treating the living patient, can test the whole treatment with this avatar in a personalized way. They can fine-tune, improve the treatment, and therefore safety is actually increased. So this was, an idea of mine many, many years back, and I decided to try to do something to potentially build a product and support patients globally on that end. So during the 8 years that we actually operate, we managed to have the certifications we wanted, like FDA, CE marking, etc. Accreditation, since the vast majority of well-known universities in the USA and in Europe are using our solutions. And now is a difficult part because commercialization has some issues regarding the regulatory issues. In healthcare, you must be patient, and even if you have an amazing idea that already supports people's lives, in order to be commercially successful, needs something more. However, we are extremely lucky to have won the first prize of the first MIT Enterprise Forum Greece Award back in 2015, and that event opened the doors for us. But I can say more about this in the near future in our discussion.
And it says a lot about the quality and the importance of this kind of organizations and awards and institutions, right, for the ecosystem.
Hopefully I will have the opportunity to say more soon. I just also must say that the company builds everything in Greece. We have a small subsidiary in the USA in San Antonio, Texas, because Texas, for a reason, there is MD Anderson there and they are well known for radonc, but there are future plans also for Boston.
Like I was saying, I think especially in underserved markets, secondary markets like Greece is one of them, right? It's very important to have organizations that act as a glue, as a catalyst for the ecosystem and provide the much needed support for the entrepreneurs to grow, because the ecosystem for itself, it's not enough, right? That's why there are secondary markets. There are a lot of gaps.
I'll say much more on that, hopefully.
Absolutely. And I just to again say what I think is extraordinary for this panel is not just that we have 4 very accomplished entrepreneurs, but we have 4 technology founders with hard assets, right? And manufacturing or acquiring hard assets, things that you can touch and things you can that you can use capital to buy, and not just software, not just something that it's vague, I would say. It's important to have technologies and companies in Greece that produce hard assets, produce things that you can manufacture them, or you can they can give you a lot of value, right? And it's really important. So if you are listening, scoot your people next to you and tell them to turn on into the panel. What panel we are? I'm not sure, but
panel 2, I think.
These are the protagonists.
Is good really a word?
Yes. But these are the protagonists of what's happened, of the technological revolution in Greece, right? And this is really important.
Another comment on that, Panagiotis. Since I am an academic and I innovated in academia, guys, on the other panel, I can also say a few things about that. Innovation in academia.
So 2 in 1, right?
So we are the winners here.
It's bundled.
Let me start by asking this. Starting out of Greece, what are the challenges, the biggest challenges that you've seen across your trajectory, that you faced, especially, from anything from having access to car manufacturers and buying cars and finding the capital, or all the way to manufacturing very sophisticated equipment. What are the challenges that the Greek founders are facing that are, making the game, let's say, uneven? And I will go like this, but in the same trajectory. But we can make it a conversation if you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
But so yes, Apostol.
Sure. So, looking at the beginning of our journey, I think the biggest challenge that we faced in Greece, apart from the known challenges like access to capital is a little bit difficult in Greece.
Yeah.
It's improving a lot, but when compared to a US company, it's a little bit more difficult. But what we saw and was the biggest challenge was that we were building stuff in Greece, but we were selling them in the US. So the thing is that, like on the very early days, on the total lifetime of the company, but particularly on the early days that you have to iterate your product, to really understand the problem you're solving, to really understand the pain of your clients, observe, how they interact with the product. This was a little bit difficult because we were building stuff in Greece and selling them abroad. I think this is a challenge that Greek companies have to overcome, because literally at the early days you have to live and breathe close to your users, and if your users are outside of the country essentially that you are manufacturing your product, this could create a challenge. However, I think that the fact that we started our company in Greece and the fact that a big part of our team is based in Greece is definitely a driver that got us to the point that we are today as a company. There is good talent in Greece. There are definitely opportunities. But I think that, going back on time, being like from the very early days, being super extroverted as a company, staying close to your clients if you're selling abroad, this can accelerate the product development process. So I think this is the biggest challenge, at least that we saw as a company.
Yes. Harry?
Just to add on that, I think, so we launched in 2015. So back then there was a macro issue in Greece. So that, of course, made us work harder, which I think now it's actually turning to our advantage because we learned in the hard way. In our case, there were two specific things that made it more difficult. The one was on the funding side, because our first test case was Greece as not as a production country, but as a real retail country.
Market, yeah.
And then when you go and talk to VCs, having Greece as your first base is not big enough to be listened to and to be taken seriously on what you want to do. Because nobody would believe that you can replicate that in the next country, So I think starting from a small country in general, especially back then when entrepreneurship was not that much in the news, we didn't have that many great cases to look at, was making things a bit more difficult. Also on the debt side, so talking to banks and trying to understand how you can get funded on the inventory level, it's still an issue. And it's still an issue that we have to face when competing against other players around the world. It feels like we need to do things 10 times in a much more focused way in order to be able to achieve something versus over there.
The ecosystem is not very well versed to support, to back entrepreneurship in the early stages, right?
I think Europe as a whole has an issue on that front. It's not just Greece, and Greece even more coming from that, which is obviously changing now, but it was tough in the beginning. And I guess the other thing that we faced an issue is that when we were trying to recruit people back then and trying to sell the vision and build the dream, not having too many examples of what entrepreneurship looks like, it was making it much more difficult to have people to get aligned, right, on what needs to be done, how to take risks.
Yes.
It was not in our culture.
A few points to add to the conversation as we exchange ideas is the first thing, hard assets are capital intensive. So where do you find the capital, and especially I would say the banking system, how supportive it is, or what can be done to that direction, and then how maybe not these years, not the last years, but especially when you were starting, and I know the starting dates of the founding dates of your companies, the reputational risk and how did that affect her, if it's there in any way right now, if you're seeing any reputational risk right now, please.
So Greece has some clear advantages and has also some major disadvantages. The advantages were that we would never have started this anywhere else because the technology was in Ioannina. It's a spin-off out of the university. So an advantage we have here in Greece for medical technology is that you have smart people, smart engineers, smart teams that work well with physicians in relatively cheap early studies so that you get started. So the original IP was easier to be formulated in Greece. And that's an advantage, especially for medical technology.
Wow.
The other advantage is that we know everyone here. So to test the waters in a condition which more or less is the same globally, it's not a different market. Parkinson is more or less the same in Greece as it is in other white Caucasian populations, right? That's the denominator. And in other ethnicities, there are some specificities, but not too many. So as a test bed to try the technology was really very convenient. Now, and also the abundance of strong human capital for software engineering. I mean, we export software engineers out of Greece. So we have the right people here. That was another advantage. Now, the disadvantages are many more. And that's an issue, right? So access to capital, as mentioned, it used to be nothing, and now is much more than that, but still is not as sophisticated, as detailed. I think we're in many ways growing with the financing system as entrepreneurs as well. We learn from them, and they learn from us how to finance companies like the companies that we are. Banking, they don't look at you at all because you don't pass the thresholds. And now, recently, they started doing that when you show P&L positive. So they want to see that. So when you're P&L negative, the kind of European funding, the kind of these additions that could be there, doesn't go through the banks. And that's an issue. Recently more, with Hellenic Development Bank, with other initiatives stimulated by the government, it is more possible because you have guarantees for the banking sector. But still, it's a difficulty that you wouldn't get in Cambridge, in Boston, or you wouldn't get in Silicon Valley. You would have, by the way, it's not a good timing to discuss that because of the Silicon Valley Bank. So that is a global issue, but it's a local issue also for that part of the world, which we don't have, I mean, to the same extent. So access to capital, access to financing, and then specialists. So we got the human talent to start building things, but we don't have market access advisors for reimbursement in healthcare. We don't have regulatory advisors to help with that. We don't have clinical studies people for digital health. So these things, in order to find them, you have to recruit them globally. And then is the disparity, you're not collocated, so these are clear difficulties. And then in terms of production, we don't have the expert sites. We're hoping to get someone to subcontract our electronics. We have to do it internally because they're not certified for the medical devices as producers. So we have to go through the whole journey of certification, vertically integrated, to be able to do it out of Greece.
Is that location in any way a pro? Like, you know, geographically speaking, do we have any advantage at all? Getting the equipment, the manufacturing?
In terms of the supply chain?
Yeah, exactly.
So and so. I mean, actually for us, our batteries came out of China.
Yeah.
And we started producing, or we wanted to start producing, in November 2019. Wuhan closed.
Yes.
And we could have no raw materials, nothing, waited for 5 months for the COVID-19 thing to kind of evolve, and then we could produce our first medical device.
Yeah.
So location, I don't think it's an advantage in terms of the supply chain.
How much I wished my question was, what is Wuhan? But we've learned what is Wuhan.
Unfortunately, yes.
But yes, please.
Yeah, speaking about challenges, you know, generally I agree with everything I heard. I can just share a few experiences from my end. So first of all, in 2015, we made an amazing party in our offices when we, opened them. And after the party, I was half drunk and I got a phone call from my friend saying, look, you must run to the bank because I've been told that capital controls are coming. So you can imagine, the challenges of that era. Hopefully, a few weeks after that, we won the first prize in 𝐼𝐸𝐻, so we were much more excited. And because of that prize, we got some, pings from some potential investors, and we got our first investment back then. But generally speaking, it was a very challenging period. I must emphasize that in our case, it was mainly, Libra Group and the Involve Entrepreneurship Award that opened the doors for 𝐼𝐸𝐻𝐻 to be a company, because otherwise there was no other way to do something like that. And this could happen only in Greece and only with the Libra Group. Why? Because they trusted almost insane academics saying, look, I know a way that can ameliorate people's lives. They trusted us, and this is how we started. Thereafter, the MIT opened the doors. The accreditation was huge for us. And so the main support we got was out of Greece. So in Greece, we kept having many, many challenges until recently. I must say, however, that for a company with our profile, we had extremely difficult years, the 2 years within the COVID crisis. Why? Because globally, our distributors could not even enter into the hospital towards making a sale. So we had hard time. So I must say that the Greek government supported with pure cash. Moreover, there is an amazing initiative regarding the Elevate Greece, because Elevate Greece is an amazing framework for the companies with our profile that are supporting the companies themselves and also people that are willing to invest in these companies. It's a great accreditation. So, as said, there are many good things and bad things about Greece, but I could say that new initiatives regarding new innovation hubs that are in the planning process, and new initiatives regarding the support from banks, because if not all of us, we have zero loans from banks because no bank will loan us money. We are still too small or too whatever. But in few words, there were challenges back then, but things are getting better. This is my overall conclusion.
Yeah.
We touched it a little bit in your remarks, but I would like us to dive a little bit deeper on that one. What's the gap that you're seeing in the employment side? What can be done in the educational system in Greece? How much of a bottleneck it really is, and how much of an opportunity? Because we also hear that the Greek talent is very high quality at a very nice price. But what we're seeing as an organization is that 50% of the jobs that are available right now are not matched. Right? What can be done here? And I would like to start with you, Nico, because 𝐼𝐸𝐻𝐻 is a nice success story, right? And I think much of it comes from the university. So what's the situation right now, and how can we connect the universities? We're at the university event, right? So let's talk about this a little bit more.
This is a fantastic question, because we have very smart people who enter into good schools through a very competitive entrance exam system, and then they are not connected with the industry.
Yeah.
Or they are more than they used to. I mean, back in my days, I graduated in 1996. Back then it was pure theory. Now it's much more.
Yeah. And
now,
let me please add one more element to the question. I would like also for you guys to speak about your employer brand. What
Yes.
do you do once you onboard them, right? How do you fill the gap?
Yes, and we're not doing as much as we should.
Yeah.
So that's for sure. So in 𝐸𝐸𝐻𝐻, there's a very interesting local ecosystem for software engineering. We have two companies, I don't need to mention their names, they are major multinationals who are doing support and debugging out of 𝐸𝐸𝐻𝐻. And we're competing with them. We are doing innovative work, machine learning, artificial intelligence, trying to maintain software or build new software for a medical device that hopefully saves the future of patients globally. And at the same time, we're competing with the same terms with companies that do other things, that are kind of outsourced locally, but that's the reality of things. So in this city, we're not getting as much traction as we'd like from software engineers, and we have to transfer them out of Thessaloniki or out of Athens, or to find other ways around that. In many ways, it would have helped a lot to be able to either be somehow favored through favorable terms from, I don't know, the government, or I mean, if there's a global national strategy on innovation, which I'm not sure there is, and that's something we should discuss, then it could be that they help us in ways we can discuss about competing against and getting that talent if we want to be innovators. If we want to be FDI destinations in terms of software, we need to have a different strategy. We don't have that. So the changes that would be necessary would be at the university level, at the country strategy level, at a ministry level, but also at the local municipality level. Now, we are also not doing as much as we should, because we're not aggressively hunting for human capital before they graduate.
Yeah.
If they come to us and they want an internship, we give it. And then we try to do the best we can with that human talent to retain them or not, but it's not organized. And that's because we're still a startup.
Yeah.
So there are many people doing the same things, but now as part of growing, we're hiring a dedicated HR director, and I'm sure this will change very soon.
That's amazing, amazing. Harry, you're one of the top job creators in the tech space in Greece. What are your observations?
So the quality is there, for sure, in Greece. We do find great people, great talent, very, very thirsty for learning new things, testing new things. So by giving them this opportunity, it works to our advantage versus competing against big conglomerates or big companies, big groups out there. So I think that thing that you can come here, test all the new technologies, all the new tools, all the new games, fail, retest them again, do something else. I think that's that is working really well for us. On the flip side, we do face a lot of competition, and we faced a lot of competition also in the last 2 years as well, with a lot of talent and the remote working thing absorbing Greeks for other companies. That became really, really evident in the sense that it was not just increasing the prices, it was really reducing the available talent out there.
Yeah.
So us also trying to go to the universities and speak to people and try to set up a system, a framework where, especially on the tech side, tech and product side, we can bring them earlier and then somehow upgrade them or teach them or train them on what we want them to be and them finding their path. It becomes, that's a really, really important thing. And going forward in terms of scaling, and given that you want to grow your team twofold, threefold in the next 2-3 years, that means that you really need to start doing that faster in a very structured manner. Otherwise, what you will end up doing is not just paying a lot, is that you pay for talent that it's also flipping easily between jobs. And, and you don't really want that. What you want to really do is to bring in people who can stick with you and push you forward. So it needs a lot of investment on the company side, on the corporate side, how you're going to create that. It's not just perks and benefits, it's really connecting with those people and their path forward. That's how we see it.
Yeah, I think one role that you guys should see is like you should be the EYs or the Procter & Gamble's or the Coca-Colas, right, of the previous generation, right? Take a full generation and board them and train them and make them, raise their skills, their capabilities, and let them go out in the market and change the market, right? More like those guys were doing in the past years. But Vangeli, yes.
Another point here, I believe that employee engagement and cash flow are probably the two most important things and challenges for us. So regarding employees, it's really challenging to engage people because, of course, the skills exist, that's for sure. However, it's really difficult to attract a great mind that would like to join the vision and actually add. We have many cases three cases in our company, and I'm really happy about them, that joined the company, added a lot to the company, and thereafter they had an amazing offer from Siemens. and healthy enough, they left the company for Siemens. I feel proud about these guys, and they helped us grow, and we will want to grow to be like Siemens, I don't know, but it's an ongoing process, having amazing people join the company, etc. So we keep, I'm lucky enough to have access to students in the university, also to other universities in my field in Greece and also abroad. So when I find the right, characters, because technical skills are everywhere. The difficult thing is to find the right character that will believe in your vision, have also some stock options or even some equity options, a decent salary nowadays, because in the early days I was ashamed for the salaries of all of us.
Yeah.
But right now we are pretty okay. So yeah, it's an ongoing challenge, and as you grow, the challenge is changing because of this reason.
Absolutely. Apostole, it's not fair to make you the question, because I'm sure Boston is a much easier place to live for Athens or Paros and Naxos rather than San Francisco.
For recruiting.
How much do you also put into this equation, like the attractiveness of Greece and attracting foreign talent, right? Having teams in San Francisco as well. How do we compete as a destination for talent also?
No, I agree with the common denominator of what we said, that there is definitely a lot of talent in Greece. What we have observed in our Greek hiring is that it really depends on the discipline. It is our experience is kind of polarized. There are several fields, like we've seen that for our client-facing positions, there is great talent in Greece. For example, mechanical engineering, there is amazing talent, amazing engineers. If you're looking for software engineers, there is more of a scarcity. Still, there is talent, but more of scarcity. Now, what we said earlier, and I agree with this, also there is more there are more candidates on a more junior level.
Yeah.
There are not enough senior candidates, which makes a ton of sense, because the ecosystem is more junior rather than senior. So there hasn't been like a very big company where someone saw, the next chapter and the next chapter and the next chapter before before coming to your company. So there is definitely good talent. The way we kind of solve this more, hirings of junior employees is by doing a lot of training internally. We have positions where for the first 2 months it's all about training. They don't pick up the phone until they are fully trained, which would take two months in some cases. But overall, I mean, there is talent. There is like the mentality of grit that is really needed in a startup. So yeah, overall I would say that there are some challenges, but it has a positive sign in front of it, definitely.
One thing to add here, one of the issues that we face, especially when you scale fast and you need middle management positions fast, so you cannot really organically create them, but you need to add them in the organization. The biggest cultural change that we saw is that when recruiting people from the industry, and you tell them, okay, now you're gonna get engaged in something that will grow 3x this year. That's mind-blowing. That means that everything needs to change. All the assumptions need to be changing every month. And that person needs to be on top of it and feel okay with it, right? And that we understood from the early days that, okay, that's killing people, that's killing their their creativity, I guess. So nowadays, in all the interviews we're doing, that's the first thing we discuss with them. Look, that's what's gonna happen. Don't feel anxious about it. We're here to support you. It's okay to fail. We need you to test things, and we need you to think 3 years ahead, it's coming in 6 months. So this is the kind of speed that when you don't have enough people out there having experienced that before,
Yeah, that's a good point.
it's a bit tough, to expect that everybody will deliver or everybody will be engaged into such a thing. So we're trying to prepare them and support them early days.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Definitely, I would
And
say.
to add something, what we've seen lately, of course, there are corner cases, but we have observed it. Candidates from other countries applying to positions in Greece I did last week an interview, a guy, he was 4 years at Pinterest and he's looking to start a position in Greece. I mean, you see such cases, they're rare, they're corner cases, but like 5 years ago, this was like, this would be science fiction, right? So as the system is evolving, we're seeing these things, yeah.
No, I agree.
Definitely. And so many years we were bleeding talent, right? We were losing talent to other countries, other ecosystems. I think if there has ever been a good time for us to attract foreign talent, perhaps, right? Get them in Greece, get them to increase their skills and competencies of our staff, right? Make them more techie, more startuppers, right? In the labor market, which is more resilient, more agile, more fast-paced, more open to failure, right? Which are not skills that we have. Attracting foreign talent is probably one way that we can do that, other than upskilling, reskilling, going back to the universities, working with the universities closer. We wrote the first policy our first policy paper, the Greek Tech Visa. Hopefully it will be on the legislation that's being, the migration bill that's being passed right now. But I'm assuming there are a lot of Americans here traveling with MIT. Greece should be able to offer working permits and residence permits, right, and resident visa for people outside the European Union, and that a lot of countries are doing it. And we wrote the first policy paper for that.
And it's not easy.
It's not easy
So far, I mean,
we don't have a tech visa. That's why.
For a previous company I was working for, I wanted to hire a Turkish person.
Yeah.
Who's an expert in medical tourism.
It's impossible.
I did it after 4 months of efforts. You know, it was very difficult.
Definitely, the tech visa should be able to fix that. Our good friend Nikos Tsamis, who's the founder of Eventora, has created a really cool feature where the audience can live feed questions as we speak. That's why I'm checking the iPad. I'm not checking my email.
Just to check if they're listening.
And ignoring it. So please, guys, feel free. There are a lot of questions already, which we are answering as the conversation progresses. But one question is a really good introduction for the next topic. What the heck is going in the global markets, right? What's happening in the global markets? How is affecting you? And a fellow here is asking, how is the Greek startup ecosystem affected by the recession of the West, let's say, but it's a correction. Let's see how you're being affected. There are a lot of startups and a lot of founders who had deposits in the Silicon Valley Bank. Silicon Valley Bank is not a problem. It's just one aspect of it. Let us know. Yes.
Okay, philosophically speaking, I can say that, during the 8 years that we are alive, 2 years we had the COVID crisis. We were born in the middle of the Greek financial crisis. Thereafter, there was the unfortunate war in Ukraine and the economic and energy issues. Right now, it is the Silicon Valley. So we must realize and philosophize that this is life, okay?
Yeah, life as usual.
Yeah, and
cycles.
we must be adaptive. I'm not saying something new or something. The only thing to be forward is to be really insist, still believing in your vision. But in practical terms, the only issue is that when you need access to capital, all these financial issues are giving second thoughts to VCs or to companies that want to support you for an M&A, etc. So you should postpone things, manage things, iterate things, etc. But you must realize that this is life, okay? In business, in science, in our everyday life, and we must all realize it and keep living with it.
So,
yes, please.
So Evangelos is very right. I mean, actually we were also formulated the same time, 2015. We lived all of that. And it's like the uncommon is common.
Yep.
Right? I mean, there's never been like a single day where something weird was not happening either locally or globally. So that creates a big talent in resilience. And also that shows who your friends are. So people who believed in us, they invested, and that moves on with as we move ahead, and we need to live by that. Now, for example, we are considering, I know it's very early, but we're even considering an IPO. Okay. Now, to consider that today in NASDAQ or New York Stock Exchange is something which is weird, right? Yeah. It's not the best time to do that. However, opportunities are there. People approach us. So we need to prioritize, take into account the projection on the financial markets for next year and the next 3 years, and try to find the sweet spot in parallel to our day-to-day struggling to survive and to make money. So it makes us be a bit more forward-looking and global in our thinking. That's the first point. The second point is that all these problems have created opportunities as well. For example, my company is in digital health. So digital health is more necessary than ever because of COVID-19 situation, which showed that people may not be able to move out of their home. So you need to treat them at home, for example. And that creates also in the healthcare systems and the reimbursement strategies accelerated pathways that stemmed out of the COVID-19 crisis. Yes. So we're trying to piggyback on the opportunities, anticipate the hardships, and always be vigilant and look at the global and the local at the same time.
Amazing, thank you. Haris, a little bit more of what you project, how do you project the next few months,
Adversity.
years, going forward? How positive or not you are?
So I'm really afraid of aliens visiting us next year,
Exactly.
right?
I mean, the only
That's
thing
what
that has
happens. So
happened.
the more
All the
Elon
rest
Musk
is
is picking up the space, the more...
He's sending messages in there,
No, but again, that's exactly what I'm afraid when the guy said that that situation becomes normal forward. There's always an instant, there's always something happening. I guess in terms of markets, in my view, the way that I see it now is that it's a modeling problem, but it's also a real problem, what's happening. So I do see the balance changing in what people can project forward in terms of lifestyle and spending, and which will have an effect in everything else. But I do feel that balance is coming. So I think in the real economy, that balance, in my opinion, in the next 6 months, we will start seeing it.
Yes.
On the investment side, on the markets, I think we'll be a bit earlier. So the moment the investment market feels that there is a
Balance?
like a light in the tunnel, they're gonna start becoming a bit more aggressive again, a bit more thoughtful on the future and the growth. So I feel that what we're experiencing now, it's tough, but it's only a short term, hopefully. Because it does hurt entrepreneurship. So if you are now somebody who wants to start a new endeavor and you have such a situation lasting for 2-3 years, so no exit, no investments, it's not the best thing to actually motivate people to take the risk and launch a new effort. But I feel that this year, towards the end of this year, we should be somehow be done with it.
I'm smiling because we're getting a lot of optimistic answers, but that's what should be expected. You're asking founders of what the situation in the
Just
market
talk about the aliens. What's the positive thing that...
We're prepared for that.
I mean, I like this trade. Whenever you ask founders what their take is on the market, the response that you get versus the VC guys, let's say, or the investors, it's exactly the opposite. Right?
It makes
you
sense.
always see opportunities.
Things will go great. Because,
which is amazing. It's quite inspiring if you ask me.
Yeah.
Apostole?
Yeah, so it's interesting, like what you said. I mean, what we're observing now is more of a correction rather than a recession. But what you asked about, like the Greek, how the Greek ecosystem is affected by this. So then there is an interesting spin on what happens globally, and if you look at the Greek companies, because like Greek companies have all these years have learned to be lean. Not, spending a lot of money, not doing like grow at all costs. They were, because there was just not good access to capital, the Greek businesses were more lean. They were focusing on healthy economics, profitability possibly. And now as these things are becoming like the most important KPIs in the investment community, it's like Greek companies have this head start all this year. It's like, Darwin's theory of evolution. Because we didn't have access to capital, we learned to be lean in order to survive, right? So now that this mentality already exists in Greek companies, this gives kind of a head start.
Yep.
So for these companies that are well positioned due to this reason, it's maybe they may have an advantage when compared to other US companies that had, I don't know, hundreds of millions debt from Silicon Valley Bank that's gone overnight.
Let me close with thank you so much, and I'm sorry to rush you, but I'm seeing the clock here. I wanted to ask you about your advice towards aspirational founders, but the questions I'm getting here are mostly about people looking for jobs. So your number one advice for people who are looking for a job in the tech sector, in your company, what would you advise the Greek, I don't know, young talent who is about to go out there? Yes.
Send us your CV.
Just apply.
We're looking for the right people.
Something else?
Sorry. go ahead.
No, I must also repeat that personally I'm much more focused on personalities rather than tech specs. I mean,
So show your personality, put it out there.
very important for me.
Yeah.
I would say just do it and go work for a startup. It will be the best experience of your life, and maybe you won't have ever
Correct.
this kind of opportunity. No matter if it fails or if it moves, you're always winning. So
It won't fail.
it's a no-brainer.
It won't
No brainer.
It won't fail.
You won't fail. I mean,
Apostole?
Yeah, there are many opportunities out there, and it's just important to go for it. I mean, this is where everything starts from.
Yeah. And if I'm allowed to add one more comment, although I'm not a job creator in the tech space, invite your friends. Invite your friends from abroad and promote Greece. I think this is the best timing forever in our history to become a destination, right? And we can attract talent from all over the world, which is, I think, a major win.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.